Welcome to the Unfrazzled Entrepreneur Podcast. I hope you're having a blessed day. My name is Steven, and I'm here with a good friend and my co-host, Ryan Rieger. Ryan, how you doing today?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Still frazzled and still trying to work out of it.
Are we gonna? Is this podcast over when you're totally unfrazzled?
Oh, that would be awesome. That would be nice. Then we just change the name to something else.
Yeah, right.
Well, last episode, we talked about how to hire your first VA, kind of the outsourcing basics. If you're interested in that episode, you can check that in the description. Last week, and I guess the week and a half, I lost a very close friend and mentor. This definitely put me back in the state of being a frazzled entrepreneur. As I'm attempting to grow and get better and become an unfrazzled entrepreneur, I like to do a lot of research. So when things like this come up, I try to just be more prepared moving forward, because I know this is not the first problem like this that I'm going to have or be derailed. And I'd like to be more prepared in future. But as I was doing this research, I came across this term business crisis. I'm going to actually read the definition of this to you, Ryan, so we can talk a little bit more about this. But a business crisis is an event or series of events that cause a major disturbance for your business. A crisis typically occurs suddenly and causes intense difficulty for the business, usually in a situation where time is short and decisions have to be made very quickly. This is not a term that I think I've come across. As I work to be an unfrazzled entrepreneur, I just want to talk to you about this concept of just crisis, business crisis, and then just like the loss of life, because I think that's the biggest one to me. That's maybe an outside force that really hurts my business, because it's very like emotionally draining on me, and it takes me a while to get back into like business mode.
Oh, sure.
But I guess I want to ask you, the first question is, have you heard of this term before, business crisis?
Not the actual. I mean, yeah, I definitely am aware of. I've had crises in my business, but I've never like Googled that term or anything like that. I didn't know if it was. I guess you can Google anything, but I didn't know. I didn't know it was a common phrase or anything. No, but yes, I'm very well aware of crisis in my personal life and in my business for sure.
Yeah, I guess it was just interesting to hear that term, because I don't even know if I use the word crisis in my life. Like I see that I have problems, and then I'm always trying to problem solve. That's kind of how I view a lot of things. But it was just interesting this week where I go, these are the pain points that I'm having. Let me research on this. And then just this problem is causing me business problems. And then started researching on like small business terms, and then that small business crisis, and then small business crisis management. It was like a big rabbit hole that I went down. But I just was like, I don't know much about this. Maybe I'm missing something. Ryan is somebody that I look up to. Let me have this conversation with him, because we have had past conversations about crisis, losing somebody. I mean, even 3 or 4 weeks ago, I lost a couple of friends. Then you lost your father. And I think that like put me in a tailspin, just when like we are trying to work together. And then it just feels like it's a lot of difficult situations where I'm already going through a period where I'm overwhelmed, where I'm moving, other things are happening. But I really appreciated that conversation. I kind of sneakily wanted to have it again in the terms of more business. But it's interesting to me when these things happen outside my business. They affect my business so much, because I feel I'm just starting a couple of things. I already know that I'm not a great like business builder, put a manager in place, long-term business. This is one of the things that I'm really trying to strive for, to become unfrazzled, have a more business that has a longer lifespan than me just building it and burning it. For you, in these times of crisis like this, when they're outside forces, like when your father passed, how do you handle that both outside and inside your business? Because I know your business is set up very much differently than mine.
Good question. Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you are a solo entrepreneur, like most of us are. I mean, I have a team obviously now, but if you just or if you're a solo entrepreneur and the business is dependent on you, the business is going to stop for a while. Or thank God for a lot of our people who are Amazon sellers. A business like that can continue to run, and you can still make money on your previous buys. It just you may stop sending in inventory. But yeah, there's going to be a time when your business goes to the back burner. I literally talked to somebody yesterday, a couple that the guy was had a really rough few months, had a heart issue, and had to, get some surgery done, and that put their business completely on the back burner because they were just so focused on survival. So I get it. You want to get to a place though where your business can still run even if you have situations that you can't control happen. So, and that really just comes down to having a team of people that help you with the business, and you may not be there yet, and that's okay. So start with one person that you can rely on, like, that you outsource some of the work too, so at least something gets done while you're going through that. But you know what, it's okay to take a break, especially if you can afford to take a break. That, if you got money saved up, and you've got a buffer, that if you need to bow out for a month and take a sabbatical, nothing wrong with that at all, to get your head on straight. Sometimes though, for me, even maybe for me, it's easier, it's therapeutic even to get back to work as soon as possible.
Agreed.
Because I enjoy my work. I want to get back when my dad passed, I wanted to get back to work as soon as I could, because that just felt more normal to me, rather than just sitting back. And, for me, it doesn't do any good to do nothing. I have to be doing something. And so it actually was good to get back. Now, if you're not wired that way and you need a break, you need to sit, and just take some time to yourself, do it. Absolutely. Get recharged, get refreshed. But as soon as you possibly can, start building up a team of people so that you have, or a system process. It doesn't have to be, when we say team, it doesn't mean you have to have 10 people that you're paying full-time salary. We're talking about, maybe it's one VA, maybe it's some software, maybe it's some systems and processes that allow you to have that buffer when something happens, that you can take some time off. So then you're actually coming at it from the pre-crisis moment to where it's, when something happens, you're kind of prepared for it.
That's very interesting. I ran across a picture. I'm actually going to pull it up here in a second, but I think this is the big difference between my current business and why I look up to you so much, because my business did go through a full stop, and I'm in the middle of readjusting my businesses. So it's a lot on me. So that's what was like the biggest aha moment for me, was just like, oh, I have things organized. I am building systems, but I'm not as organized as I thought I was. And the big realization of this is a solo endeavor currently. I'm partnering with other people like you, and those businesses are still moving forward, but they still require me to do parts of the business, and then I am dropping the ball, and then I feel bad about it. I think that's why when all that other stuff was happening, I just got depressed, because I was like, I know I need to do a next step, but I don't even know what the next step is, because a lot of these things are new, and it just felt like I'm letting a lot of other people down. And then after talking to you, realizing like that's not true. That wasn't the case, but that's how I felt. And I think before I would take a lot more time and just like try to sort through. But I think that after seeing you get back to work so fast, now that this last really good friend of mine passed, I was just like, I think I'm ready just to like get back to work. I think giving myself too much time is that like spiraling effect.
Yes.
Getting back to time was the solution for me this time, where it was just like, yes, he passed. I feel a lot of emotions, but work still has to get done. There's a lot of things on the plate that need to move forward, and it's helping me deal with the emotional side by just like, I got to focus in on something else and do. At certain times I'll have a question I wish I could call him and ask him, and that affects me, but then I'm like, I got to get back out. I got to get out of this, like, I don't know what you call that, depressed, I guess. I don't know if I've really classified as that, but just out of that. Doing something gets you out of that. You were saying something about when your father passed, and I guess I just more want to ask you, outside the business, as a Christian business owner, I'm assuming outside the business, you are still a Christian. From a Christian's perspective.
Yeah, I'm only Christian in my business.
Well, I think it's funny to me how people have Christian businesses, but then like Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A is a Christian business, but I don't think every person working there is a Christian.
No.
So it's just, I was talking to somebody at church on Wednesday, and they were saying a Christian business. And then I was like, the owner of that business, I don't think is a Christian in the terms of how they were acting. So I guess I just wanted to clarify for my own self. As a Christian business owner and a Christian outside the business, when your father passes, how do you handle that? Where I feel those emotional things like really bother me. How were you able to, like, I don't want to say bottle it up, that might be the wrong term, but like deal with that and then get back to business?
We just deal with it. We had our time. We went to Indiana where the funeral was, and spent 8 days. I mean, I still work during that time because, I mean, obviously there's things to do when a loved one passes. You have to, take care of your arrangements, go to the funeral home, meetings there and all that, family coming over. That's draining to me. Work is exciting to me. So like, I had to, I mean, that was my outlet, was open up my laptop, checking emails, being normal in that time was therapeutic for me. But I understand if somebody's not wired that way and they're like, nope. I think if you hated your job or you didn't enjoy it, you'd probably want to, maybe you'd set it aside and get back to it when you had to. For me, it was like, I love what I do. And so it just, it was therapeutic to open up that laptop and be normal. I don't know. I just deal with it. I definitely didn't bottle up my emotions. Your times and you're tearing up and times when you're not, but you just trust the Lord. I mean, I don't know what else to say.
That's probably the bigger thing. Yeah. Constant problem with trying to grip the wheel and take ownership and it's my way. I think that's the realization all the time, is just like, oh, it's God's plan. God's supposed to be in the driver's seat. I'm supposed to be doing the best that I can, but relying on God going through this.
Yeah, it's his grace during that time. He gave us the grace during. I could feel the prayers of people. You hear people say that, but really you do. It's I could feel people praying for me. Just emotionally, that's tough going through something like that. And just you could feel their prayers and just know that folks care, and that means a lot. But yeah, for me, the work continued. I mean, I didn't do as much. I for sure didn't do as much. There were no webinars in the evening, and there was a whole lot less work. And I totally leaned on my team. Meetings got canceled that I would have had. A lot of things got pushed back. Podcast episodes that I was going to record, the podcast kept going because I had batched up content. And that's a huge thing. We could talk about that too. I didn't have to. I mean, my Friday email still went out. The podcast still went out on that Friday. That we had I think the funeral was on Friday. And so those things happened. And so I did very little work compared to normal, but things still happened and my team stepped up. So
I guess this was another thing for past when I was going through things. I think I bottled them and then just didn't tell anybody. I think this was a big aha moment working with you. Is just like, oh, he's letting everybody know what's going on. The communication is very clear. Then I think people are empathetic and just going, oh, okay, things are going to change a little bit, but he will eventually get back to work. And I think working with you too, like hearing that, I felt horrible. I did pray like crazy. And then like you still being able to reach out and communicate and say, hey, we're still working on this. We're doing this. I'm going here. I'm doing these things. I'm going to stay here for a little bit longer, but this is still what I want to do moving forward. Communication was extremely clear. I think this is another piece that I'm picking up, is like, most of the time when we have teams, it's my brother doing most of the communication. I'm communicating with him and then he's communicating that message out, but I should do a better job of communicating to my team. I think now that my friend passed, I reached out to you and said, hey, this is what's going on. I know you've left a bunch of messages and emails that I need to get back to, but this week I'm not going to be able to get to any of that. As soon as I get back, I'm trying to catch up on that because I enjoy working with you, but this is a difficult time. And I'm the one traveling and picking people up and bringing them all over the place. And it was just like the speed at which all this stuff happened. It was just like, oh, Monday we talked, Tuesday everything fell apart, and then Friday it was just like everybody's gone. They just like here it gone. So like now this is when I know I'm going to spiral because nobody's here. I need to do something. Getting back to work seemed like the correct solution. So I just want to thank you because that was a learned piece from you. I think we talked about that in the first episode when I was just most of what I do is from other people. I saw my father doing something, then I saw somebody else doing something. I was just like, oh, they're doing it this way. Maybe this is a better way for me to operate than the way that I'm currently doing it. Crisis management was another term that I'm hearing. Do you have a plan for anything like this that happens where it's like, if this happens, then my team will take over, this person will step up, or any of that stuff? Do you have that planned out?
God help me. No, I don't have maybe I should have a crisis management plan. No, we just people step up when they need to. I think one thing you could do, and I don't think we do it particularly really well, is with our team having where several people can do other people's jobs. Like most of my team's in the Philippines, so there might be a time when there's a typhoon or something, and half the team is you can't contact them for a few days. So having the others be able to do the others' jobs is a big thing. And that's so rare, that thing that's rare for that to happen. But there are times when they're out. I mean, with going through COVID, that we had times when a couple of our main people were sick and couldn't do much. So, either things didn't happen, or they got pushed back, or somebody else stepped up and did that job. So I think ideally it would be where there is no lag, where there's everybody else knows, that they have a system and a process that if something needed to get done and it was so crucial, and that person that normally did it was out, that somebody else could go look through that system and process, look through that video, look through that document, and get the job done in that person's absence. So I don't have that totally in place. That would probably be what I would do if I was going to focus on something like that. But for me,
okay,
normally
I think I'm going to ask you some questions like this and bring up this image, because I think as I feel in phases of being a frazzled entrepreneur to be an unfrazzled entrepreneur, I feel very close to becoming an unfrazzled entrepreneur. And then something like this happens. And then it feels like it takes a lot longer to like dig myself out of that hole. So I think I would like to come up with some type of at least strategy for it. I think because we've both been through a lot of crises, these might be things that I can just run a couple scenarios. And what did you do in this? Just like you said, they have weather problems, something happens, act of God, I guess is what they call that stuff. And so I think putting it both on something that happens to you or something that happens to the team. I just want to bring this up and we can kind of run through some scenarios on this. So this is another image that I ran across when I was doing some research. What they have here, if you're listening, is pre-crisis is kind of on a sliding scale. This is the most far left. Then right next to that, they have dormant, and they mark that as 1. Then active, they mark that as 2. And then serious, they mark that as 3. And then severe.
Just like the DEFCON levels in the military.
Yes. So as a scenario, for the same typhoon that might come through or a tropical storm, for you, you said you don't have any like protocols built up, but you've gone through some of this stuff. So
the VAs know, I mean, they typically, a typhoon doesn't just like happen immediately. They typically have some type of runway. They know, hey, it's coming. It's possible it's going to hit here. And it's possible that because of this, we're going to lose power. So that's the scenario. So that's pre-crisis level.
So communication, I guess, is the
communication is very key in that. And so I am just then prepared to know, like, when that hits, that, there's a chance that I may not hear from that VA for a day or two. And so, but typically what they'll do then is just make sure that they've done a lot of work up before that to get kind of caught up or ahead. Or will alert another team member, say, hey, I'm right close to this. Can you do my job if I am out of pocket for a couple of days?
So I guess I asked if you had a crisis management strategy, but it's maybe just ingrained in what you've done previously. So it's not maybe written down, but it seems like you have one.
Yeah, I guess we kind of do. It's just, it's not, it's kind of just something.
It's not like an SOP where it's like, if typhoon comes.
Don't have that, no. Yeah, they just deal with it.
So I guess that was another realization as I was going through this, is like, this is not new to me. And I know it's going to continue to happen. I'm just trying to educate myself to like, how can I be more prepared for this? I think most of the time when I think of crisis, it does happen like exactly that second. There is no like precursor to it. But this example that you're giving, there is a little bit of runway. Sometimes you kind of know what things are going on.
Yeah.
My friend had cancer, but they gave him 5 years, but then it was 2 weeks later. So it was like, that was not expected. So the runway that we did have immediately got
cut off. Yeah.
So it was nerve-wracking for me to see that. And I was just like, I think if I knew that we were talking about changing some things and doing different things, so it was like a pre-crisis talking about it, but then it was like, there was no extra steps. So I guess when that happens, I'm always trying to think of like, it just immediately goes to either severe or serious. And I'm always in that red line to fix that. But is there at least a strategy or something I can think of as those things happen? I think this scenario of you talking to the VAs, like it already shows me that the team is so much more powerful. Like even if my friend passed immediately like that, I would have told them, now looking back hindsight, that, hey, a really good friend of mine has 5 years. We're kind of planning on doing this. So I just want to give you the heads up that this might be coming. That could have been just the pre-crisis could just be communication. Like, I don't think it needs to be written down in an SOP and, hey, when this crisis hits, turn
Right.
to page 7 in chapter 7. Like, maybe if you're a huge corporation, but I think most of the people we're talking to and most of my friends are SME, small or medium enterprises. These are small business owners. These are people that have like 5 to 10 to 15 employees or upwards. I think the cutoff is like 500. Most small businesses have 500 or less employees, and it's mostly in that like 5 to 10 to 20 range. But pre-crisis, I think they handled it the same. I don't know if they would have a book of actually like, these are the crisis management strategy steps. But I think communication is definitely number one.
For sure.
I don't know how to classify this next step of this, which is the dormant phase, from when you are communicating to your VAs, or they're communicating to you, I guess in this case, and they're letting you know that this is coming. But before it's actually active, is there anything that you do other than just like let the rest of the team know and try to sort out jobs, or have anything that's like, hey, this project is coming up, let's try to clarify this?
Not that I can think of. I mean, that dormant stage might actually be the stage where the VA is saying, hey, there's a typhoon coming in a couple of days.
Interesting.
Pre-crisis, I would imagine on that graphic that you showed is before you even know a typhoon is coming. It's more like, if we ever going to deal with a crisis, this is how we're going to deal with it. The dormant stage, I would say, is probably that stage when it's, hey, it's coming in a couple of days. We got some time right now to get some things in place. Active, it would be when it's,
happening.
It's right here, right now, and then it may not get to serious or severe. Hopefully it doesn't, but
I guess
I would say that dormant stage is that where the VA is saying, hey, this is coming in a couple of days. Let's here's what I'm going to do about it.
I guess for me as a current solo entrepreneur, that dormant phase, I think, is when I'm trying to move jobs around. I don't know if like rehabbing this house is a crisis, but it's definitely a project that's coming up that's going to take a lot of time away from other things. I knew it was coming. I also knew that we were going to move. I also knew that me and you were going to start a business. So it was just communicating pre all that. And then as it's happening, just identifying, going, okay, let's do podcast recordings on Friday, because I would really love to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, focus fully on the house in the daytime. And then Friday, I have other calls that I can have that we can knock all this recorded stuff out, and then go back to Saturday and Sunday. Sunday, obviously going to church, and then Saturday kind of taking a day to just like clear my head to get ready back for the week. So I guess that dormant stage for me is just like, as a solo entrepreneur and trying to build a team, it's just clarifying what is on the plate, how things need to be moved around. Can I adjust anything? Should I reset my schedule? Should we move things? Just like prepping for this eventually thing that's going to happen, because I'm going to be rehabbing this house. Now, I didn't know I wasn't going to be able to get as much help as I thought, so it's going to drag out that job. So that's another problem. But the dormant stage for me, I guess, as a solo entrepreneur, is just that, the planning stage for this stuff. And then active, when this thing happens, I guess if you're communicating with your team, there's not too much happens in the active other than it implements what you talked about.
The plan. Yeah.
And I guess this active and serious is kind of the same thing. I guess if it's active and it's only one day, it doesn't really disrupt your business. You can move on. But if it becomes like, hey, they're not going to have power for 2 months, then that would be starting to scramble.
Yes.
Do you ever pre-plan for something like that? Like, if this team just goes offline for 6 months, I need
6 months. No, we have no plan for that. Maybe we should.
I guess as this is a scenario, what would you do?
If all of my team, like every single one of them?
Well, I don't know. I guess maybe yes, because this thing with Ukraine, like I think this is a realization, like something like that could theoretically happen. The percentage chance of that is very low.
Bombed off the face of the earth. God forbid. Oh my gosh.
That's probably not something to laugh about, but just it's a crazy hypothetical.
Very crazy hypothetical. I mean, there'd be other things more serious to worry about that if that happened, if that really happened. Like, I mean, honestly, seriously, if half the team was off, I mean, a typhoon knocked out power for months and the grid was just destroyed. I mean, the other half would have to pick up the slack. We'd have to hire some more people quickly. If it was the whole team gone, all of them without power for months, geez. I mean, that would probably seriously affect the VA service, because because we're talking about, we hire VAs from the Philippines. That means everybody else would be without power too. I mean, it would probably effectively cut that off for a while. I mean, I don't know how I would recover. You just would
You
have to
do
build it
have
back.
a part of your foot in India now.
Yeah, so that would be, I guess that would be the
You just
plan,
ramp up
would be to try
another.
to find other countries that you could pull from.
Yeah, I guess the exercise of this is just to get you thinking.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever taken time like this and gone, hey, if my business was taken out the knees, what do I do in these cases? I think
right.
this will be something I do with my team, though, and just realizing as I'm building this team, because we have gone through crises with teams before, where there was a tropical storm, there was a hurricane, there was thing that, and we did just bounce around jobs. It wasn't like everybody in the Philippines lost power. It was this small part of the team now has to pick up the rest of what was going on, and we just communicate with our clients to let them know this is what's going on. It's going to push back due dates. Who has something that needs to get done right the second? We'll just rearrange the way that things came in and the way that they'll be going back out. It was just adjusting on the fly, but I think going through some of this stuff just helps you, like with the plan that you're going to have. I think it's a lot of unknowns. I think that's why I kind of like running through the scenarios where it's just like, in this case, what do we do? It's very unlikely, but if it does this destroy the business, or can we change it up? I think you, as a business owner, are constantly trying to fortify what you have. I think that's, I don't want to speak for you, but I would assume that's part of the move of moving some of the team to India, or trying to hire Indian people or people in India to do different jobs, is for that, just in case, maybe not for that specific reason, but it is another leg of something happens to the Philippines where they just don't have power or internet for months and months. You could hire a lot more people in another country to be able to do this stuff.
It's true.
I don't know in a crisis where the line is, where
I don't know. It all feels serious. It all feels severe.
Well, even like what would you classify as severe? That is something that your business could go. I guess this is another way of thinking of it. If something severe happened to my business, I think it would crush my business, because I am the sole person. Like if I got hit by a bus tomorrow, that ends the business. Where I think if you got hit by a bus, God forbid, your business would still be able to operate. It would just need another manager. Do you have that person that you would tap that would just step up
for the
that?
Legends group? I mean, I got an awesome team of people. I'm sure there'd be one that I could tap to say, hey, I need your help to run this. For sure. I think that group could run without me. And there's a lot of things I do in the back end that somebody else would just have to pick up and pick up that ball and run with it.
Is your team aware of all those other things that you're doing? Like setting up the Zoom calls and stuff like that, stuff that you do in the back.
I mean, are they aware? They know what happens. Well, maybe not every little thing, like the promotional stuff, the marketing. No, they probably don't know those specifics.
As you're trying to look for a executive assistant, is this something that you're trying to hand off to the executive assistant? Is a lot more of those things that are handling?
Yes, definitely. Just any of those little things, and just to help people listen and hear. Like, just think that now I'm very well aware of a task when I do it. Like, I'm thinking in the back of my head, this is something somebody else could be doing for me. So just have that awareness. Even if you're listening to this, just have that awareness that if all you get out of these first few episodes of this podcast is that you are thinking about the things that you're doing every day in your business, and you are intentionally, like, even if you go ahead and do it, but just write that task down. Like we were talking with your friend from church, write down the thing. You told him to write down everything he's doing in his job. And if you just start doing that, you'll start thinking, as you're doing these tasks, this is something somebody else should be doing. Or, you know what? I really don't enjoy this task. It has to get done. And right now I'm the only one that can do this. And write that down so that pretty quickly that you can, like, that's something that I do not want to be doing this very much longer. And so as you're bringing up that graphic from the Freedom Compass from Michael Hyatt, is this a desire zone task that I love this and I'm good at it, is this a drudgery zone where I don't like this job and I'm not good at it? And then over the other one, the distraction zone and the disinterest zone. And we have that download on wingmanvas.com. You can download just a free PDF that'll help you go through this exercise to think through what are the tasks that I'm doing. And even if you just do it as you're, well, it may be hard to sit down and think about every thing in your business, but as you're doing it, write it down at least. That'll be helpful for you, because it'll be like, you know what, I don't want to be doing this anymore. Let's get this off my list. And so to your question about the executive assistant, yes, there are things right now, even in my business, even though I've been doing this for a long time, that I know that I shouldn't be doing and somebody else could be doing for me. And I'm at a point where I need to get it off my plate so that I can, focus on the things that I really enjoy.
Yeah, I think this is a eye-opening experience for me going through this. I think crisis brings clarity.
Mm-hmm.
I think getting back to work as soon as possible, again, just helped me realize like, oh, I'm not as organized as I thought I was. I really do enjoy building SOPs and being able to hand that stuff off. I think as I'm trying to build a couple of these businesses at the same time, it's taking longer than I would like it to, but partnering up with you is definitely a huge help. I think the organization after I came back was, hey, Ryan, we have massive chat going and we're emailing back and forth, which is awesome for the communication, but it makes it difficult now that took a week off and I'm coming back to it. Like where are we at with any of this stuff? So we have gone to Asana, the I was going to say project management software, to be able to put all that stuff in. And even now it's a bit of a mess. I don't know if you've seen it recently, but I dumped even more stuff in there, just like, oh, these are other things that we're also doing and how can we organize this? But it's just a realization of when crisis comes, I'm attempting to look for the silver lining. I try to hyper focus in what are things that my business could do better. That's why I like researching. I enjoy coming across this term. I really enjoy being able to talk to you as a mentor. This is another thing I do, I think, in times of crisis, is reach out to friends and just go, hey, this thing has happened. How could I have prevented it? How could I make it better? This is, I think, why it makes me sad to think about my friend, because he was a person that I called all the time. We talk almost every day about just different strategies and tactics, and that he will be missed. But it just made me realize I need to have a team, more than just mentors and good friends, but an actual team that can take time, the time that I'm doing into stuff, and give my time back. And I think if this is something that you're interested in, looking at that Michael Hyatt visual aid, understanding where you're putting your time. Is this something that you enjoy or don't enjoy? I get in trouble a lot in this disinterest zone, where it's something I can do, but I'm not necessarily passionate about it, because I do feel like sometimes you got to just put your head down and do the work. But I'm realizing as I get older and building businesses, that's not truly the case anymore. There are times that I can just hand that off and it gets done better than when I can do it, even though I'm proficient in it, because my desired zone is where I'm a lot more lucrative in all my endeavors. So if you're interested, download that free offer, get your time back at wingmanvas.com. I almost messed up that link. Ryan, do you have any final words?
No, just, this is good. I enjoy chatting with you. I enjoy just hashing these things out and having these conversations. I'm really looking forward to some of the other episodes coming up, where we're going to sit down with people and talk through their business and help them. Almost be like a free coaching call that we're giving them. Like, let's talk about your business. Where are those inefficiencies? What are those tasks that you shouldn't be doing that you may not even realize somebody could be doing those for you? That would be really fun to dig in, because I love those brainstorming calls too.
Well, I always appreciate you. Thank you for answering my questions and having this conversation with me. All right, guys, take it easy.
See ya.